Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei and I'm so excited to paint and draw with you today. I've been out for a couple of days taking care of some home life, family life stuff, so I'm happy to be back. I am going to be doing another page in our watercolor journal, and this page is going to be some drawing and painting of some flowers. We are going to get loose, use our imaginations a little bit, and do some fun and funky little drawings. And then add some paint to them. I am going to be using my 6x9. It's approximately 6x9 Bao watercolor sketchbook, 100% cotton, 140-pound cold press. All my supplies are listed in the description of the video. I am using Core, Qor by Golden is the brand of my palette. I have 24 colors in my palette. You do not need that many, but if you have them, great. And then I'll be using a round brush. This is my silver black velvet brush that I'll be using today. And let's get started. So I'm just going to do, what I'm going to do is sometimes it's fun in your journals or when you're practicing to give yourself some limitations or rules that you have to follow while you're doing your painting, and that guides the practice. For this one, we're going to be doing flowers or florals and foliage, so leaves, flowers, buds, petals, that kind of thing. But we're going to draw them out, and I'm going to do a continuous line drawing. So this continuous line drawing, I can't pick up my pencil. Now, if you want to do this observationally, you definitely can. And what that means is just looking at something and you're drawing the contour, the outside lines for the most part of that piece. And your eye is mostly on whatever it is you're looking at, the still life, and then you're just drawing and kind of having your hand follow along. I'm going to do this one for my imagination. So we're going to do some different types of flowers, again, for my imagination, so they might not be exact. This one is going to be an iris. From what I remember, I mean, I've painted and drawn irises many times, so I'm going to get as many of the parts right as I can, but things might be off a little bit. And then in here, I'm going to draw the center one. And what should happen in this is you're going to have some overlapping lines, you're going to have some funky things going on, but it's going to make it kind of fun and interesting. All right, some of it I'm going to put in with paint. So there's my iris, and I didn't lift up. And now you can also not lift it up for the next one as well. So we could do another iris. We'll have this one overlap. So these big petals here that come out the sides, and usually there's one big one in the middle, and one on the outside, or two on the outside. All right, and now I'm going to come back down, and I'm going to jump over to some leaves. And this is like helping you free yourself up. Your leaf should look weird and funky, and nothing should be perfect. And for those of you who are perfectionists, this might help a little bit. All right, I did lift up my pencil there. I'm gonna go to kind of a more rounded flower. And some more leaves over here. Let's do some lily of the valley. So let's see if I can do that. So I'm going to do a big leaf over here and another big leaf over here. I want to pick up my pencil so bad and do, but that's what gives it kind of some of the charm. And you could do this in ink as well. I just decided to do it in pencil. So those are some like falling over lily of the valleys. So let's, and this is definitely used, this technique, in observational drawing, where you're looking at something and you're really only looking at that thing and you're not picking up your pencil off the paper and you're just letting your brain and your hand connect to each other, your eyes and your hand. All right, so I'm gonna leave it like that. That looks super fun. So we got some irises, lily of the valley, this other roundish flower, and some lots and lots of leaves. So let's add some color to this. All right, so let's start. I'm gonna start with my purples. I have some Dioxazine purple. If you don't have a purple, you can definitely make it with some of your blues and magentas. If you have a magenta and a phthalo blue or a cobalt blue, those would work great. And I'm gonna make this, as I add the paint, I'm gonna make this pretty loose as well. And this I'm actually gonna pick up, I wasn't thinking clearly, I'm gonna pick up some of this paint here because I want the center to be yellow. I'll just pick a little bit of that up. Dabbing in some yellow. And then I'm going to do purple, but I'm going to have it be darkest on the outside and get lighter as we go towards the center. And I'm going to add some more color to this in just a second. So right now we're doing wet on dry, and I'm basically just getting a layer of color in here with some gradient. And then in a second, I'm going to add some darker color. And I'm not being precious about the lines or staying within the lines or anything like that, because this does have kind of that funky feel. It's going to have some outside of the line coloring. And we're just going to blend. And same thing up top. And I'm going to drop in a little more yellow. I'm going to come back in later with, I think, some more purple in the center to just create some fun little lines in there. All right, let's add some more purple. Now I've been rubbing my hand across this, so it did definitely smudge some of the pencil. The cool thing about pencil lines is I kind of want to keep the lines just like ink, and once you go over them in water, they become permanent. So as long as you're not smudging them, but once you put water on top of them, they won't smudge anymore. Now the fun thing to know about yellow and purple is that they are opposite each other on the color wheel, so they're complements of each other, but if you mix them together too much, they will start to make brown, which is what we're going to use to our advantage later on. when we go and add some of the details. So try not to take this part like too seriously. These are not hyper realistic irises. I want some fun, funky texture. This outside part. And then once our irises are feeling good, we're going to move on. All right, I'm going to move on to my petaled carnation-y like flower over here, kind of like oh, what's the flower I'm thinking of? A ranunculus, that's what I was thinking of with all those lines. And I did erase some water and now I've smudged it, but we're gonna do our best. I'm gonna make this one pink magenta. You can see I'm adding magenta. I am going to put a wash over top of the whole thing. And you can definitely see where I got, like I was erasing while it was wet, while the paper was wet, and I damaged the paper a little bit. So you gotta be careful of that. You gotta be gentle with your watercolor paper. All right, now I'm going to take some straight darker magenta. I'm going to play up some of those lines that I drew in there, those sections. Wet on wet, it's going to, especially if you're using core, it's going to kind of spread quite a bit. So I'm going to leave that the way it is. I'm going to dive into some of our leaves. I'm using sap green. And I'm going to come in with some more darker sap green for some stems. And you can add some more leaves if you want. I'm going to pick up some of this green gold I have. Some more vibrant green color. Don't be afraid to use water on your paper. Like after you've put paint down, you don't have to pick up more paint to make the paint go further. And a lot of people think that. They're like, oh, they just pick up paint after paint after paint. And sometimes you just need a little dollop of water to blend things out. And it goes a long way. So I'm just adding these two colors together. So my green gold and my sap green. In my different leaves. So I would say if you're going to do something like this, don't be afraid to let it look a little funky in the beginning. And as you add details and layers, things will start to come together. They'll look like flowers. I have faith in you. I'm going to add in a little phthalo blue with my sap green. pull it down a little just to add some variation. You know what we're going to do? These stems in this darker green. Like I said, you don't have to stick to just the pencil lines you drew on. So here I'm adding some extra leaves, being very loose and kind of carefree about it. And I can add this cooler color to these already existing leaves. I can add some pattern to them. We're going to come back to this pink rose in just a minute. All right, while that dries. All right, let's go back into our irises. I'm taking just some purple and I'm putting in some detail in the center, some of these little marks. So I'm doing it in purple, but when it gets layered with the yellow, it kind of gives off this brownish, reddish, which is what it looks like in an iris. And if you look really close, it's just the purple of the flower, but mixing with the yellow. Got a little carried away with this one, I think, over here. But, you know, it's okay to get carried away in our watercolor journals, I think. That is my 2 cents. I'm just adding in more color now because I can and because it creates more contrast, which makes things more dramatic. And I'm not happy with what I did in the center, so I am compensating by working on another area. Okay, so let's get some more color on our pink flower over here. And I'm just adding this darker color kind of to the lines that were already in there. So fun. You can blend them out a bit with your brush. All right, and we have our lily of the valley. So these are like a white flower, but instead of painting them white, we're just going to paint in some shadows. They already have shape because of the line. I'm going to use some of this blue color actually, kind of towards the edges. I could go more neutral gray, but I think this is more fun. I'm just going to put a light kind of wash on, still letting a lot of the white of the line show through, or of the outlined area show through. And again, I'm trying not to be too careful. Try not to fill in the whole thing, but also, here, let's use a little bit of a darker color towards the edge. These are Lily of the Valley-esque. They're a little bit different, but I like this contrast of the darker color that's popping in here. This is just a very merry, fun piece. All right, what do we think? We could, oh look, I made a mess down here. I got it on my hand because I wasn't being very careful. I promise I do paint slower and more carefully when I'm not paying attention to you guys so much and thinking about the camera and keeping going. I'm just going to cover it up. So I apologize when I make these big silly blunders. But then I can show you how I fix them. A lot of the time I just don't. I just cover them up, make them part of the scene. That is my fix for them. This big water droplet over here. All right, now would be the time to kind of add in some other details. You can definitely see my pencil lines through a bunch of this stuff. You can go back through like on your irises and add more details if you want, like darker texture and patterns to the surface of the leaves. Nope. The petals. We can go back in and add some more layers or some more depth to the center of our little roundy ranunculus carnation flower here. Yeah, so overall I am happy with this piece. What do you guys think? This is fun, very low pressure, not a lot of anxiety going into this because you just go and you go. You start and you keep going with your line drawing. Don't forget, you don't have to use a pencil. You could use a marker or a pen. Just make sure that it is archival ink that won't run in water. So I use illustration pens. This one is Artist Loft. Micron pens are very popular. There is definitely a link to that in the description to Micron pens. All right, thanks everybody for joining me for another watercolor journal page. We will be doing another one very soon. Don't forget to check out the description for links to supplies and materials. Feel free to leave a comment, like, and share with a friend that may also enjoy following along in our watercolor journals. And yeah, that's it. Take care, y'all. Happy painting.